Epic the Musical is going to be a movie, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, as you can hear in my latest video. To summarize, I chose a few songs that I think could get cut from this film to save time, but y'all had a lot to say about it too, and today I wanted to highlight some of your responses and continue the discussion as we wait for more news to come out. So one of the most common comments from y'all was about musicals and specifically Hamilton. I am super glad that y'all are Hamilton fans too. Hamilton is fantastic. When the album was released, that was like my nonstop album that I was listening to. I was probably more obsessed with Hamilton at that time than I am now about Epic, but it's close. So what you all are commenting on is the sung through nature of Hamilton, aka there is all singing and no dialogue, and as well as the length of Hamilton. Just like this comment from J. Rye W, who said, "Have you not seen Hamilton? That had more songs than Epic and it still worked. So I imagine Epic just being like Hamilton, all songs, no dialogue." And overall, yes, Jay's original dream for this show is to be a sung-through musical with no dialogue. That's why we get a lot of kind of dialogue-y segments in the music. However, I think it is a real possibility that we don't get this. I think an animation studio might cut some songs, add some dialogue. That's just my opinion and what I think might happen based on, examples in the animation space so far. Of course, a Broadway musical production is going to be different than an animated film. And Hamilton is a Broadway musical. It can be longer. It can be sung through because that is already a part of musical repertoire. And this, as an animation work, is working within different bounds and working within a different tradition. And animation typically is not a sung-through musical. Of course, I would love for the animated film of Epic to be fully sung through and to be exactly how Jay imagines it, but the standards for film and for animation specifically are just different. We don't have a lot of examples of something like that, like a fully sung through musical being an animated film. And if there is one, please comment down below. I would love to know, and I'd love to watch it. But typically, in at least Western animation, I'm thinking about Disney. I'm, thinking about these other classic animated movie musicals. They have just a few songs and are not fully sung through. However, this could be a really cool opportunity if the right studio takes on this project for this animated film to defy the usual animation standards and limitations. It would be really cool to see this be kind of one of the first longer animated films that's a fully sung through musical like that. It would really be kind of one of the first of its kind, and I do think that would really make waves for use of a pun and could be really cool to see. The second most common comment also relates to kind of the last one, is the length of this movie. As Spade the One and Only said, there are movies that are 4 hours long. I think they can do one that's 2 hours long. I agree. I personally hope we get at least 2 hours long for Epic the Musical because it is a huge story and it needs a lot of runtime. Personally, I wouldn't mind if it was 3 hours long. I would absolutely revel in however long they want to make it. But again, typical animated movies in Hollywood are going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours. Hollywood definitely has embraced longer films, but animation specifically is usually shorter. And every single second of animation costs a lot of money. And that's true of any film. But animation is very time consuming, cost consuming. And I definitely could see there being budget limitations to how long they can make this movie. However, I will say, for the hope of it being long, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is a great example of a very successful, like the most successful of animated movies, embracing a long runtime. Infinity Castle is around 2.5 hours, and like I definitely could see if there's enough budget behind it, Epic being that long. However, again, remember that Demon Slayer is a franchise that has already had movies, has already been proven successful, and Epic the Musical, I mean, has proven successful as far as the songs go and the downloads go. And so I don't know. Again, it all comes down to budget. It all comes down to what studio is going to take this. And I hope it could be 2.5 hours long. I'm just not banking on that happening. I also had a lot of responses from you guys being very upset with the things that I cut, which of course I totally understand. Every single person that listens to Epic has different favorites and different songs that resonate with them. And that's part of the reason I love it, because there's so many characters and there's so many moments that I think everyone can really connect with. And I was even upset with myself for cutting some things. Like Legendary, I said that in the video, but like Legendary really is one of my favorite songs. But I think it could be one that they cut for reasons I, elaborate on in that video. But the song I'm most surprised about, that you guys were upset about, was Hold Them Down. I was surprised so many of you were defending Hold Them Down. And I'm really glad that I get to see this, because I think you all helped me have an appreciation for Hold Them Down more so than I did previously. For example, Aaron J says, Hold Them Down is one of the best villain songs. It's important because all the other enemies are monsters or gods, but the final enemies are humans. You need to show how they are as monstrous as the non-human problems he faces. I love this comment because I've never really thought about the fact that the suitors are the final boss and they're the humans. They're other monsters, like Odysseus has become a monster, the human monsters, whereas every other challenge they face is from the gods and like monsters and this part of this mythological ethos. And then he comes back and he has to face other people who are monsters, but in different ways, right? Because Odysseus obviously calls himself a monster, but at least he has guilt about it and the suitors don't. But yeah, I really loved that one. I loved thinking about how the humans are the final monsters he faces. My opinions have changed, but it does make it even more difficult for imagining what kind of songs they can cut when so many are so vital. But out of all the songs that you all wanted to keep, there was one song that kept coming up in comments that you all, or at least a lot of you, would be willing to get rid of, and that is Charybdis. I decided to keep it because it is a part of the Odyssey story. It's one of the monsters, but I can see why some of you would want to cut it, because it's just not as popular of a song, even though the monster is pretty cool. Some of you even suggested like merging some songs, and Charybdis could be merged into like Dangerous or something else. And I could definitely see that being a possibility, not just for Charybdis, but for a lot of songs. I think it's possible songs just get shortened and merged together, and maybe we see more montages that just keep the pace going and kind of fly through a lot of different songs. I kind of imagine some things getting smushed together into a montage, kind of like in the Percy Jackson musical, where Drive becomes like so many chapters of the book, just to like keep the pace moving, because there's so much that happens. That's kind of what I could see happening as well. And my favorite comment was from Hippie Girl Anso, who said, "Don't have to watch the video. None of the songs should be cut. After Jorge's hard work, the musical is perfect as it is. It's epic." And I completely agree. I think it is absolutely phenomenal the way it is. I do hope they keep all the songs. If anything, I hope that they are able to like keep all the songs, and also that Jay can like improve on them and add more songs and add more music, because that ultimately would be like the best case scenario. What my realistic predictions about the film come down to ultimately is that I just think that Hollywood animation studios may not have the budget or capacity or willingness to include all of the songs. And I hope the producer that's been announced, Jerry Bruckheimer, who picked this up, is willing to and able to convince studios to put a lot of work into making this a longer movie. And whether or not it will be fully sung through or include all of the songs remains to be seen, but at least we can still enjoy all the music the way it is right now. I also hesitate a little bit about Jay's creative freedom on the project, and I'm not sure what kind of contract he has or what creator rights he has kept, but there is a possibility that Jay will not have a big say in the creative decisions. I do hope that he remains an important voice, but even if he does, he'll probably have to adapt the story to the demands and goals of the studio and the production. So ultimately, some changes will probably have to be made. Ultimately, I do hope for the best, and I hope the movie is produced by a studio that really cares, and that there's a team of awesome animators and storyboard artists and visual development people who are all Epic the Musical fans, because I really can't wait to see what happens, and I hope they do this musical justice. Let me know what other predictions you have for the movie and what animation studio you think would do a good job bringing it to life. If you're excited to keep discussing Epic and more animated works, please subscribe so you can stay tuned and stay animated. Bye!